Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We got a small crew today. It's summertime. It's hard to get people to commit. You know how it goes. Everybody's busy. We've all got the back to the beginning hangover, I think. But we are here on this Monday night. Let me introduce the crew. Craig Kaminsky's in the house. Tony Dio's in the house. And Rob Lasante is here as well. Rob and I are trying to figure out all these Hudson Valley storms today. It's kind of coming and going. Are we getting it? Are we not getting it? Craig already had in Pennsylvania. Tony probably gets storms all the time down where he's at.
hmm
That's the summertime for you, but the humidity is back. So today we're going to talk about some of our favorite solo albums by members of notable hard rock and metal bands, right? So there's tons of solo records from singers and guitar players, bass players, drummers, you name it, across most genres, but we're going to try and keep it sort of in the hard rock and metal genre. And as we were chatting before the show, sometimes it's hard to kind of separate what is a true solo album from what is like a solo band, right? So we were talking about like the Michael Shaker group, MSG. While you could probably classify any of those albums as solo records, I mean, that's pretty much a band. Dio's band. Dio is a band, right? So kind of hard. We may kind of pick some of this stuff in this episode, but we may not. We'll see how it goes. So originally we were going to do three each, but since we have such a small crew today, I opened it up and said, let's do as many as we want and fill some time. So Craig, why don't we do two at a time? So Craig, why don't you kick us off with
Two.
your first two picks? Yeah.
First two. Okay. So I had a few here, and my first selection is one that's not not even really metal or hard rock, but or not hard rock. It's rock, but not hard rock. And it's one that I had I think it's kind of a rare album, and I had actually burned a copy of it for Pete. And this is JY James Young from Styx, City Slicker. This is from 1985. So this was shortly after Styx had broken up after their Caught in the Act live album, and Dennis DeYoung and Tommy Shaw had already put out a couple of solo albums as well. And JY, I always loved JY's voice, and you always knew when you got a JY song on a Styx album that it was always a rocker,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was always like like it was like probably the heaviest song on the album was the song that JY would sing. Great White Hope and Miss America, Put Me On, Midnight Ride, and this album here is with he collaborates with Jan Hammer, who plays the drums and does some of the keyboard work, and I think he plays bass on a few songs as well. So it's definitely not a metal album or anything like that. It's kind of a pop rock sort of album, kind of like what you would get from him while during his tenure with Styx. But for me, it's cool to hear JY sing 10 songs. He does the vocals on all of them, and some have some keyboards in it. He handles the solos for the most part. He actually splits them with Jan Hammer. Jan plays, I think, some of them on keyboards, but it's cool that even though he's the third best singer, in Styx and still is to this day, really, but it's cool to hear his voice on these songs, and it really shines through. There's some good mid 80s sounding rockers on this, a couple of ballads which actually work really well. My only real negative with this is that the drums, courtesy of Jan Hammer, sort of sound like those Miami Vice type drums in a few of the songs. So they have that synthetic feel to them in a few of the songs. But nonetheless, I think the songs are really enjoyable on this. I was fortunate enough to find this at a record show on CD.
You find
I
that
had
on
this on a
YouTube, man.
cassette at the time, and believe it or not, they actually he made a video for one of the songs on this called "Wild Dogs in the Night." They showed
Remember
that
that?
on Headbangers Ball, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Ronnie James Dio was the host of it, and he introduced that song. They played it maybe once or twice. Not really a song you could have on Headbangers Ball. It's a nice rock song, but I wouldn't push it towards metal. But a fun album nonetheless. So if you get the chance to find it somewhere out there in the wild, check it out. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. So, but yeah, City Slicker by JY.
It's a good one.
That's my first choice. My second one is what do you get when you take one of the founding members of a seminal punk band and have him do his actually what would be his second solo album? You think it would be a punk classic? Wrong. And I picked Steve Jones, Fire and Gasoline. Now this is from 1989, and you would think this would be kind of like a punky album by him. Not the case at all. This is more like an LA rock quasi hair metal sort of album, co-produced by Ian Astbury. Who handles a lot of the background vocals on it? Billy Duffy actually plays a guitar solo on one of the songs, so it kind of has the cult of the late 89 Sonic Temple kind of sound with the production on it, but with Steve Jones sort of gruff rocker vocals on it. A lot of really cool songs on this. Freedom Fighter and the title track Fire and Gasoline. Wild Wheels has a cover, a pretty straight cover of Suffragette City, by Bowie on this, done by Steve. But the best song is another cover on this, and that is of the Sex Pistols' "I Did You Know Wrong," where Steve Jones handles co-vocals with Ian Astbury, and none other than Axl Rose flies in on this song. I am not an Axl Rose fan at all, but his vocals on this song are really cool as it blends in with Steve Jones' vocals on this on a not expected Sex Pistols song. So it wasn't like, Anarchy in the UK or one of their more well-known songs from their lone album. But yeah, Steve Jones, Fire and Gasoline from 1989. And Pete, this is a rock
I was
candy.
just gonna say that looks like a rock candy sticker. Look at that.
Yep.
Although this was probably not in your collection, but I think you would like this. It's like I said, it's kind of a quasi hair metal album, not punky really at all. Just a good straight up 1989 hard rock album.
That's pretty early. That's like a very early guest appearance for Axl Rose. That's pretty early in their career.
Yeah, he wasn't I mean,
I mean,
Appetite
they
had
were
topped
already fairly big
everything.
by '89,
Yeah,
but still,
but
that's
he
pretty early
wasn't,
solo.
the huge star that he would become. So yes, hearing when I heard this for the first time, because I don't think it said that he was the vocalist, and it's like, oh wow, that sounds like Axl Rose, and it's actually pretty good. It blends in very lends his voice very well to the song.
Cool. All right, Tony, over to you.
Okay, so my first two, I'm going to go with the guitarist from Boston, Barry Gordeau. Um, great, great solo record from this guy, and it's basically a bunch of the members of Boston without counting out Tom Schultz. And this was 1980 when this came out, and I didn't know about this record for years. Was a Boston fan. I had a high school buddy that loved Boston, and he turned me on to Barry's project after this, which was Orion the Hunter that came out around like 83 or 84. And we neither one of us knew about this record at all and didn't know until sometime in the 90s when the CD came out. Razor and Tie put it out on CD originally, and they did the Orion the Hunter. I think Rock Candy has redone them again now.
Yep, yeah.
But
Get it now.
this album actually features um, you've got Sid Haitian, the drummer from Boston. You got Brad Delp, the singer from Boston. Also Fran Cosmo, who would later be in Boston later on, but he was the singer in Orion the Hunter. But this album sounds so much like Boston. I mean, from what I understand, maybe the reason that we didn't know that it even existed. I mean, there was supposedly an ad that ran when this album came out. It said 6 million people have heard the sound of his guitar. Let us introduce you to him. And supposedly Tom Schultz just flipped over it, got pissed off, and they're on the same record label, Epic Records, which is Sony, which Boston was on, and basically threatened not to give them the third Boston album if they didn't squash this. That was a rumor going around. So maybe that happened, and that's why for years I knew nothing about it because I wasn't getting a whole lot of magazines in 1980 myself, so I didn't see any ads for it. But I'm glad I did discover it. Like I said, it's a really, really good record. If you like Boston, you'll like this record. I mean, they had one single for the song Dreams, which you can actually find the video for on YouTube. Just sung by Brad Delp. And I mean, hard luck, first song, when it kicks in, you hear that guitar, you're going, it's Boston. I mean, if they just played it on the radio and didn't tell you anything, you would think it was a new Boston song. But it's just so many good songs in here. I mean, the song Cold Cold World is very reminiscent of it's been such a long time. It's just some of the songs kind of sound like that, stuff that had been structures of previous Boston songs. I guess it was just in his DNA. That's the way he writes. But it makes you wonder how much he really did contribute because by the time Boston got to third stage, they were really mellowing out. The rocking stuff was kind of taking a back seat, and maybe Barry was the rocker of the band. But yeah, really, really good album here.
Yeah, it's a
And
terrific.
if you,
It's like the undiscovered Boston record for anybody
yeah,
who hasn't heard it.
I never even heard of it. I'll be honest with you
No,
guys.
it's if you're a fan of Boston, the first two albums, it could be the third album.
Wow.
It's
I
that.
mean, if you picked this up in the store, you'd have no clue. There's no pictures on the back of any band members. I mean, there is an insert in here that shows the band members and stuff. But I actually went to see a band not long ago called the American Vinyl All Star Band, and Barry was the guitarist. So I actually brought my record and got him to autograph it here, and it was him and Skunk Baxter and several other like famous musicians just playing each other's material. So that was a really cool show. American Vinyl All Stars. If you see them coming your way, go see them because it was a really good show.
Tony, is that
Um,
an import?
this was a Japanese copy, but it was available in the U.S. I had a U.S.
Hmm.
pressing on vinyl once, but like I was saying, Rock Candy has reissued it now in CD. You can easily find it.
Okay,
Um,
check it
It's
out.
good. It's really good.
my number two pick is going to be a guy who has sang on a lot of albums that we probably all like, and that is Graham Bonnet. And this was actually his third solo album, Lineup. And it's actually got a great cast of players on here. You've got Cozy Powell on drums, Mickey Moody from Whitesnake on guitar, and John Lord on keyboards from Deep Purple. So there's some great tracks on this one. There's Night Games that opens it is really cool. We had a music video for that one. I think even he covered that when he was in Alcatraz. They put that in the set.
Yep.
But you got a couple of songs in here. I think SOS and Liar, which are written by Russ Ballard, who wrote Since You've Been Gone. And he does a cover of a song called That's the Way That It Is that Uriah Heep
Keep
would
it. Yeah.
cover a year or so later on the Abominog album. And just some really good stuff. He's got a Chuck Berry cover on here, Anthony Boy. Um, Don't Stand in the Open, the last song is great, great track. Reminds me a lot of a White Snake because it's actually written by Mickey Moody. It reminds me a lot of the stuff you hear White Snake was doing in the 80s before the Slide It In period. But yeah, this is a really good record. Always been one of my favorite singers. I mean, people used to give him hell back in the day because he looked more like James Dean than he did a rock star, a heavy metal rocker. But hey, I always thought that was kind of cool. Just gave him a cool image and just always fit in real well. And that voice is that's a metal voice. As much as he's tried to run away from heavy metal and hard rock for years,
It
claiming
always
that's
comes
not
back.
what he doesn't like to do that kind of stuff. He always has to come back because that's where he makes his money at, and that's
Yep.
his bread and butter.
That's right.
So yeah, so that's my first two guys.
Cool. All right, Rob.
Oh, well, this is it's weird because you guys are going like more obscure stuff, and of course I'm gonna come up with the big boys.
That's all
Uh,
right. Big
All
boys.
right, man.
my first pick's gonna be Ozzy, Diary of a Madman, second album. Unfortunately, Randy Rhoads' last album, as we know, and this album for me, when this came out, I was really blown away by Ozzy's albums, and all because it was Randy Rhoads. I mean, it's funny because most of my solo albums I'm going to talk about tonight are singers, you know, but on most of them, there's always good guitarists on them, and no doubt with this one, this is what made Randy Rhoads an icon to this day. Max Norman produced this album. The sounding on this album is superb, obviously. And I've met Max a couple times at shows. Really nice guy. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. Right out of the gate, those three songs are like just classics, Believer, Little Dolls, Tonight, SATO, and of course Diary of a Madman, which is to me is one of the most epic songs ever. I mean, this album for me has always been, I play it a lot, at least a couple times a year. And of course, it brought up a lot of feelings this last weekend with Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and you can't have heavy metal without Ozzy. I mean, that's what it's all about for me. So that's going to be my first pick tonight. My second pick uh, is going to be. I had a big problem with this only because Accident of Birth and this, I love those albums so much, but I have to
Yeah,
give the edge to Chemical Wedding because of
good stuff.
it's a little darker, it's a little bit more ominous, album. I mean, and everything on here is great. Of course, Adrian Smith's on this, came out in 98, for those who don't know. King and Crimson, Chemical Wedding, The Tower, Killing Floor, Killer Song, Book of Theo, Gates of Urizen. Oh, I love that song. Jerusalem. I mean, there's not one bad song on this album. To me, this is a classic album by Dickinson. In fact, that's the difference. I think this album has a couple better songs than Accident of Birth does. Even though it's neck and neck, I would go with this. Roy Z produced this. Obviously, if you know the album, it's just one of those classic albums for me that I never get tired of this album. I haven't listened to it in a while because I listen to a lot of other stuff. But when I put this on, it's just like I have to listen to the whole thing. I can't stop it. It's just
Both of
one of
these
those
albums have
albums.
held up so well. I mean,
They
arguably, you'd
sound
say these
great.
two albums are better than any Iron Maiden album since.
I was going
Actually,
to ask, I was
Since
going to
Seven
ask you
Son.
guys, it was like, in your opinion, do you think that Chemical Wedding is better than Brave New World? Since that was the next thing that Bruce sang on.
Yes.
well, yeah, I'm gonna say it. I mean, you know me. I'm a big Iron Maiden fan. Come on, but
Yeah.
I have to say that I put this on more than I put on Brave New World. Even though I love Brave New World, and we'll get into that later because there's something to do with that year when that came out. But yeah, definitely for me, Bruce's solo albums, especially these two, Accident Birth and Chemical Wedding, I think when you listen to like the stuff with Blaze and those guys, and then later on, it still blows that all away.
Yeah.
Even the stuff they've been doing the last 20 years hasn't been as good as this, to be honest with
No,
you.
Yeah,
I
both of these
agree.
I've
albums are so
Totally.
strong, top
they're
to
just
bottom.
so strong, and so I have to put them on my list. So those are my first two for tonight.
Did you guys get to see them when they toured for the accident at birth, whatever?
No.
I didn't see it. It's a long story, but I didn't see it at the time. I wish I did, but
Yeah, I saw them a couple times. Seeing Bruce and Adrian in a small club, it was pretty amazing.
yeah, I'm I know people have told me many times.
All right, my first two today. Let's go to 1992. I have a lot of guitar players here in mind, so it's easy to pick guitar players as singers, right? Those are the usual suspects. This is from a guitar player from Europe, and he brought along a vocalist formerly of Deep Purple, Trapeze, and Black Sabbath. So it's Face the Truth by John Norum.
Hmm.
Absolutely
Got it
killer
right
album.
here.
There you go,
Yep.
right there.
Excellent record.
Peter
Excellent.
Baltes from Accept is on this album as well. Man, this album just absolutely smokes. It's just like super straight ahead, kick ass, hard rock and metal. Glenn Hughes is singing like a beast on this. Norum is just shredding, laying down some great riffs. It's just a molten album, and it's so heavy. And I wish these two guys would have done more records together. I mean, Norm's got a bunch of solo albums, but this is the only one that he did with Glenn Hughes. But man, just go listen to tracks like Distant Voices, so good. They do a
Oh
really
yeah.
cool cover of Opium Trail. You got Night Buzz is killer on here. The title track is great. In Your Eyes is great. There's a really great instrumental on here too. Smoking guitar, great vocals. Um, Released here in the States on Shrapnel Records. I'm not sure where it was released overseas, but very, very cool. That's my first choice.
What
Uh,
year is it?
Pete, be
What
sure
year
to
is it?
be sure to grab the rock candy version of that. If you have the shrapnel version, um, the shrapnel version omitted a couple of tracks that were on the European version, and the rock candy actually is tracked just like the European version in the song orders. And they actually do a cover of "Still the Night" on here, the
Wow.
one that was on the Phenomena record.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the shrapnel version has a cover of "Don't Believe a Word" live by
hmm
Z, and
hmm
it's got "Free Birds in Flight," which is an instrumental. So that's
Yeah, that's the version I had for years, and my friend had the European version. I always wanted to get that, and so when Rock Candy reissued it, they did the
and the
European
track
version.
sequencing is different too, right?
It's different. Yeah, it actually starts with "Face the Truth" and
Right.
"Distant Voices," which is the first track on the Shrapnel, is the last track on the European version.
Wow. Okay. I'll have to
Yeah,
listen to that.
yeah, amazing the way they
Yeah, I
did
bought
that.
this when it first came out. I've had it forever, so
Yeah,
it's amazing.
excellent album.
My next one is "Corridors of Power" by Gary Moore.
Hmm.
Now, Gary Moore, of course, kind of was always a solo artist, but he was in Thin Lizzy. He was in Coliseum too, so I guess he kind of counts. But this has always been my favorite solo album by him. It's just absolutely immense. The guitar playing on here is just mind-blowing for when this came out. I remember hearing this in like '82 and thinking like, who is this guy? Heard one of these songs on the radio. It's like, oh, it's Gary Moore. I'm like, I don't know who Gary Moore is, but man, I've loved him ever since. I miss him so much. But man, great stuff on here. End of the World is just molten metal, amazing guitar player on here. Don't Take Me for a Loser. Always Gonna Love You is great. That's the song I heard on the radio. Rockin' Every Night, Cold Hearted, I Can't Wait Till Tomorrow. Great guitar tone. Really good singer too, as well. He's got Jack Bruce singing guest on End of the World, but absolutely love it. Ian Pace is on drums on here. Killer record. Always one of my favorite solo albums of all time. And the next one that came out is really, really good too. So Victims of the Future. So that's my first two picks for today. Back to Craig.
Great, great records. I have trouble picking between those two, which is the best one.
Yeah, I mean they're both amazing, right? It's just this is the first one I heard. I've always been really, really kind of close with that one, but you could easily pick the next one too because I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Are we doing two or three or here?
Oh,
Well,
whatever. Yeah, do two more if you got. Yep, yep.
Two. Okay. Okay. So my next one here, this was the first solo album that this guy had put out, and this came out in 2008. And one of my more recent, or he's been around for a long time, but I've really come to enjoy his playing, and that is Wino. And this is Punctuated Equilibrium from 2008 on Southern Lord Records. Pretty cool album. I mean, it's this was between right after he had finished doing Hidden Hand albums, so he brought along for the ride Jean-Paul Gaster from Clutch on drums and John Blank on bass. So it's just a power trio kind of a little bit of a different songs. They're still kind of stonery, but with his I love Wino's singing voice. I really do, and just as much as his guitar playing, it really kind of shines through on this. It's an interesting album. I mean, it's a rocker, but it's got some solemn songs on it too, which he would kind of explore later in some of his acoustic-driven albums. So, but I think this one's it's a nice start for him, and it's just released under his name alone, Wino. So that was my first one. My second one here, and this one I think is kind of rare, although I bet you Tony's got like 1,000 CDs behind him. He probably has it, and I'm sure Pete does too. But this is from 1994, and this is Fast Eddie Clark's "It Ain't Over Till It's Over." So this was
Don't have it.
Yeah, I don't have
no,
it either. No, I've never even heard
okay,
it.
all right. This
I've
this came
heard
out
of it.
this came out in '94, and so this is after the initial run of Fastway, but then he later on he did some other Fastway albums before he passed away. But Eddie sings 9 out of the 10 songs on this. Perhaps not wisely. He doesn't have the greatest singing voice. Correct me if I'm wrong. The only Motorhead song he sings is "Step Down," right? I mean, I don't think he does a live version of "Emergency," I think, and that might be it because Lemmy handled all the other vocals. He doesn't have the greatest singing voice. It almost kind of reminds you of Ace Frehley in some of these songs. And incidentally, the background vocals on this are by John Sloman. from Uriah Heep, who did one album. So I have a feeling that he was kind of the guide vocalist, maybe, that sang these songs initially, and then Eddie put his voice on top of it. But there's a few of these, or at least a couple of these songs here, are co-written by Dave King, so they sound like Fastway songs that Fast Eddie sings. So, but the first four songs are just real bangers on this. Snake Bite, Lying Ain't Right, Back on the Road, and a song called Naturally, which, again, as much it's a really cool song, but damn, if Dave King sang it, it would be like the missing Fastway song. Just it has like a good swing and groove to it, and again, great solos by Fast Eddie on this. The title track, which is the very last song on the album, "It Ain't Over Till It's Over," is really a cool song. As there's some bluesy tracks on this as well, and track 7, Laugh at the Devil, is sung by none other than Lemmy. So you get 2 out of 3 of the classic Motorhead singing on one song on this. So this was on
Nice.
Griffin Music, I think, from 1994. So probably it might be kind of rare. Of course, we'll probably see in the comments there'll probably be like 50 people that say, "Oh, I got that album." But Martin Popoff did a review of this in one of his in his 90s, or in his 90s book, and I think in the his initial book, Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal. So that's how I first learned about it. And again, I found this at a record show and was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, if you see this out in the wild somewhere, check it out by Fast Eddie Clark.
Those were probably songs that they wrote for a Fastway album that never happened because Dave
Yeah.
King did not want to do that style of music anymore. So he probably just had that stuff sitting around. He should have just probably had John Sloman sing the whole album because he's actually a very good singer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
it's
was in
like I
Lone
said,
Star.
it's
He sang with Gary Moore for a little bit. He did that Uriah
yeah,
Heep
I
album.
mean, it's his vocals are not great, but they're not terrible either.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of Ace Frehley, reminding you earlier Ace Frehley,
Mhm.
not later Ace Frehley. But all in all, it is a really cool album. And like I said, Lemmy happens to parachute in for one song on vocals on this, so
Yeah.
that's pretty
Cool.
cool.
All right, Tony,
Yeah.
you go.
There was
I got to run out for 2 seconds, but Tony, go ahead. You can do your next two picks.
there. Okay, I was going to add to that too. There is an anthology, a Fast Eddie anthology CD that came out in the early
Oh,
2000s through Sanctuary, and they used some of those songs. And it seems like I did read somewhere that some of the songs on there were for the third Fastway record that they canned in favor of doing that really AOR commercial record, Waiting for the Roar. But
oh yeah.
if you look at the songwriting credits on that album, Fast Eddie's not on any of them. It's all Dave King and Outside Writers.
Ah,
They were trying to
interesting.
go more commercial. But
Yeah, because then
okay,
their
so
yeah, because then the fourth Fastway album was basically the soundtrack to Trick or Treat,
soundtrack
and that's a little bit more hard
like the
rock,
first stuff,
hard
yeah,
rocking
like the
stuff.
early stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so my next one is going to be Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy's solo in Soho record.
Hmm.
Yeah, this was 1980. He was doing this right around the same time they were working on the Chinatown record. And I think every copy of this I've ever seen is always a promo copy. It's just they must have put tons of them out in the U.S. 'Cause, every time I find one, it's a promo copy. But yeah, this is a good one. He's got so many guests on this. I mean, of course, he's got some guys from Lizzie on here. He's got Brian Downey. I mean, pretty much everybody. Brian Downey, Scott Gorham, Snowy White, who had just joined the band. He's got Gary Moore's on here. He's got He's got Huey Lewis on here. He's got Martin Knopfler. There's a great track on here called King's Call that is written about Elvis Presley's passing, and Martin Knopfler does the guitar on it. And I swear it sounds like Phil Lynott singing on a Dire Straits track. I mean, when you hear it, and it's definitely just you're like, wow, this is cool. It's a combination of the two sounds. But yeah, there's some good stuff on here. Dear Miss Lonely Hearts was the single from this. There's a little single for it. This track was actually co-written by Jimmy Bain, who plays on the album, and he and Phil were good buddies and recreational uses and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
they're writing songs amongst other things. But they had this song "Yellow Pearl" in here. It's kind of like a very synth-driven song that he did with Midge Ure, who was on here, who had been in Thin Lizzy for a few minutes there and during the Black Rose tour. So it's some really cool stuff on here. One of the tracks, it's called "Tattoo." And that track actually got re-recorded later by Huey Lewis and the News. They called it "Giving It Up for Your Love." I think it was on the Four album, possibly. But yeah, this is cool. The video, if you can find the video on YouTube for "Dear Miss Lonely Hearts," it's great. I mean, it should have been a Thin Lizzy track. They actually recorded it for Chinatown and decided to hold it to keep for Phil's solo record. But I think that could have possibly been a hit for him if it had been released as Thin Lizzy. Just a really cool track, and they played it live in their set. And so my next one is kind of an odd one, kind of ties in what you mentioned a while ago, Craig, about the Steve Jones record. This record's produced by Steve Jones with Andy Taylor from Duran Duran,
Thunder.
the guitar player from Duran Duran. And if you ever watched, you remember growing up watching MTV and you saw Duran Duran videos, Andy Taylor always looked like he wanted to rock. He was always he had the ponytail and he had the cool guitars, and you're like, he's the rocker of the group. And of course, he pops up a couple years later with a Power Station, which was more of
Oh, yeah.
a kind of a heavy rock project with Robert Palmer. So this was his first solo album. This is 1987. It's called Thunder. Some you may remember that was the cover you would see most on most of the records. This is a Japanese CD. It's got some extra tracks on it. The first song I remember hearing by him was it was a movie soundtrack song. It was called "Take It Easy," and I think
Great
it was
song. Great
what was
song.
the
And you
movie?
can't, and you can't find it anywhere.
Okay, so it's on the Japanese CD as a bonus track. They've actually got about 4 different versions of it, like remix versions. If you
Okay.
like that song, Craig, find
That's a
this
great
CD.
song. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
movie was that from? Do you remember?
American Anthem. It's a absolutely terrible movie about like gymnastics. It's with Mitch Gaylord, where he was a
Okay,
Olympic gold
I
medalist. All terrible movie, but that song was a big hit.
yeah, that I remember that video. They showed it all the time. He's rocking out. He's got real long hair. He almost looked like Ted Nugent in the video, kind of the way
Yeah, and it's like
his
that's the guy
image.
from Duran Duran,
Yeah, it's
and
exactly.
it's
So
like a mid '80s rocker song, and it's like wait,
it
that's
is.
the guy from
And
Duran
so,
Duran.
and this record has a lot of rocking tunes on it. The opening track, "I Might Lie," is just a kill on this full throttle rocker. He's got "Don't Let Me Die Young," another just really catchy, heavy rocker. It's got some, more melodic, some slower tracks on it. It's kind of up and down, but it's really good. He shows that he is a really good guitar player on here. He does some tasty guitar solos, but then he does a lot of stuff that kind of like reminds me of something you hear like he's going off like Benny Vincent. He's just whammy bar yanking and all kinds of stuff in it. Just not what you would expect from the guy in Duran Duran. But yeah, just like I said, it's a really good video. I mean, a really good album. I was thinking of video because another thing, MTV had like I think it was 1987 New Year's Eve special, live MTV. Going to have the ball drop, and they had Andy Taylor performing live. And the first song he played, he did Thin Lizzy's version of "Rosalie." That's what he opened with. And that concert's on YouTube. You can find it as well. But yeah, yeah. So Andy Taylor, Thunder from 1987,
Cool. I've never heard that.
worth checking out.
Yeah. I always thought he was a good guitar player.
That
So
one song, "Take It Easy," is really a nice. It's like something you'd hear like on the Rocky Four soundtrack or something.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it's a really good mid '80s rock song.
cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to go check that out. All right, Rob, what do you got?
All right, so my number three, or my number one, actually, I should say, not number three, number one is this album came out in 2000. Actually, it's going to be 25 years old in a month. We were talking about, Bruce Dickinson before with my other pick. Well, this one by Roy Z
Aha, there you
is
go.
Mr. Halford
Yeah, man.
himself. So
Yep.
for me, as you guys know, and most of the people on the channel know how much I love Priest and Halford and all that. During that time in the 90s, after Halford left Priest, he did fight, and then he did that crazy two thing, which really nobody really liked. Um, and he during the sessions of that, he wrote this song on one of the songs on this album called Silent Screams. And I'll never forget, this was like it was from 98, 99. So it was like 2 years before this was released. There was an actual demo on YouTube. I think that's where I heard it, on YouTube or something. I know I heard it online, and I was like, "Oh my God, this song is great." I never thought it was going to get released, and then when Resurrection came out, they released that along with. I mean, now for me, yes, it sounds a lot like Priest, but I mean, it for me it was just a very heavy album. It was during the time where I wanted to hear Halford again, be Halford, not do that other stuff that he was doing. I wanted to hear him do uh, heavy metal. And in fact, that year, I don't know if Pete was there, but they toured with Iron Maiden
I saw
and
that too.
Queensryche.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was at the
I
Garden.
saw that show at the Garden, and
That was it.
Halford destroyed. I will
yeah,
never forget that
Yeah.
night. He just
yeah,
when he did Resurrection. Oh my God! I mean,
yeah.
he was at his peak. I mean, I guess you could say it was the second peak because during the early '90s he was at his peak. But when he came out and did that song, the crowd went nuts. And as a lot of people know, Priest was not allowed to play the Garden because of what happened in '83. So, but Halford wasn't in Priest; he was Halford, so he was able to be an opener. And like I said, he destroyed. But this album itself is just amazing. Made in Hell, Locked and Loaded. You got Nightfall on there. Of course, like I said, Silent Screams, and then of course the one he did with Bruce, One Love to Hate. That one is not as great, but it was fun to hear him and Bruce do a duet. Cyberworld's great, Slow Down, Twist, and then later on they have there's some other great songs too on the Japanese edition. Sad Wings, Hell's Last Survivor. If you have that, oh man, Hell's Last Survivor is amazing. So for me, this album really brought back that sound that I was looking for with Halford, and obviously, that tour did well, and I just, this is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
I must listen to this. In fact, when I'm at the gym, I'm always playing a lot of these songs, Made of Hell and Resurrection, all that, just to get you pumped up, or whatever. So,
Yeah, man.
When
Love those songs.
I think I told this before, but when I too saw that concert, that tour of uh, yeah, Iron Maiden, Queensryche, and Halford. And I saw it in Camden, New Jersey, and Halford goes first, so people are still kind of filing in, and he's starting. And the Resurrection album, I think, had come out, but it hadn't, people weren't really totally familiar with it. And it's like you hear like him starting to sing, Resurrection, and then when he just screams into it, everybody was like, holy
yeah.
shit. And it was like, and then here comes Rob Halford. And like you said, it's like, wow, he's back. And it was so cool. I mean, like, I think the first three songs were Resurrection, Made in Hell, and then Into the Pit by Fight. And it was like,
Hmm.
whoa, it's like, three bangers in
Yeah.
a row. And it was like, wow, he's just, he's more mobile too than he has been, in the last, I don't know how many years. So it was cool to, see him just ripping it up like that.
And it
Yeah.
was I
I
was
was gonna
going to say
say,
it's the Brave New World tour, too. The 2000,
yeah.
we were talking about
Yeah.
Brave New World before, and I mean, Iron Man is always great, no doubt about it. But for me, seeing Halford at the Garden again it was just, I got chills.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony.
What I was gonna say, that tour did very well,
Oh
and
yeah.
those three bands playing like that, it was almost like, hey guys, metal is back, it's coming back, and it's like Rob Halford says in the song "Made in Hell," he says, through all this insanity, the metal god will return, and yeah, I had this for honorable mention because this is a great record. I mean, Roy Z did with Rob Halford what he did with Bruce Dickinson. He
Yeah.
brought him back home
Yeah.
and said, this is what people want to hear from you, man. You can go out and do industrial records all you want, but people want to hear the metal god. That's what they know you for.
Yep.
And yeah, I remember I had a friend that worked at CMC Sanctuary, and I went by his house one night. He goes, "Hey, I got something I want to play you," and he had a single for Resurrection, and he put it on, and I was just like, "Man, this is badass. Rob is back, man, big time."
Yeah.
And yeah, and it definitely it set the seed the for Halford coming back to preach in a few years, I'm sure as well.
He ended that set with Tyrant,
Oh
and it's
wow,
like
Oh yeah.
he does that scream at the end of Tyrant, and then it's like Queensryche had to come out and follow that up. It's like, I don't know how they could do it.
yeah,
It was one of those
exactly.
like mic drop moments where he just goes, you
That
know,
live album that
and
came out
everybody's like,
after that
everybody's like,
live
Think
album
about it.
is
On that
just
tour, we got to
killer.
see Halford, Dickinson, and
Dickinson
Tate all on
and
the same
Tate. I
place at
know.
the
It
event.
Yeah,
was like,
And that was towards the end of Tate's kind of,
yeah,
because Queensryche really weren't putting out good music around that time. So,
the
yeah.
three Tremors.
yep.
yeah,
Tree trimmers, which never really happened. I think
yeah.
they did one live show or something somewhere.
Yeah, I think they performed the one you love to hate with all three of them at some
Yeah.
shows.
But yeah, seeing those three bands, those are my three bands anyway. And this, so I there's no way I cannot have this solo album up here. So
Yep. Yep. I hear you.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Eat 'em and Smile by David Lee Roth. Big fan. Mostly because of the band.
Mhm.
I was
I mean,
gonna
Dave's
say
fine too, but
it's
yeah,
gotta be Steve.
it's Steve, it's Billy, I mean, come on, these two
Yeah.
guys together. I mean, I remember when this came out, uh, this was just such an exciting album, just full of like amazing musicality. I mean, I remember seeing that video for Yankee Rose, and I'm like,
Give me a
holy
bottle of
crap.
anything and a glazed donut
Yeah,
to go.
it's just,
Not in my store, you don't.
They
yeah,
played the shit out of that on MTV. Oh my God. It was
yeah,
on like
they
every
did,
day.
they
And the
did.
Yeah.
video for Going Crazy is just as funny, especially the longer version. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just so
Yeah.
good. But it's some great stuff on here. Shy Boy is great, of course. That's an old Talus tune. I'm Easy. Ladies Night in Buffalo is so kind of funky. Tobacco Road is a blast. Elephant Gun is great. Big Trouble and Bump and Grind is so heavy. I mean, just to me, Vi and Sheehan together they're just absolute magic together. And it's a shame. The next album is pretty good, but it's not quite this. This to me was like him going out and saying, "Okay, I can have a band just as good as Van Halen," and it's like, boom, this comes out. It's just like, oh, I remember so many people were kind of like, all of a sudden this happened, and then you had 5150, and people were like, that album's kind of poppy. This is where it's
Hmm.
at now, right? So
Yeah,
great stuff. And
Dave had something to prove. You know.
oh, for sure, for sure. And then kind of along those same lines, I'm going to go with Steve Vai, Passion and Warfare, which I think is an absolute brilliant, mostly instrumental guitar solo album. And, of course, he got his start in Frank Zappa's band, went to Alcatraz, did the David Lee Roth thing, joined Whitesnake, and he basically released this right around the same time as the Slip of the Tongue album. And this is, he's got a lot of really good solo records. This is arguably his best.
One of the
Just
best.
so much great stuff on here. And again, just flawless playing and really great memorable songs. It's kind of like what it's all about. I mean, a lot of great musicians on here. He's got Stu Hamm on here on bass and all sorts of other killer players. But man, just mind-blowing stuff. So many, I mean, the audience is listening is so much fun. Greasy Kid stuff is great. Love Secrets. I mean, just so much Erotic Nightmares, so much good fun stuff. You can tell that he learned a lot of his stuff. He got a lot from Zappa because there's a lot of the Zappa quirkiness on both his first solo album and this one. Then he would start to do different things later on. But yeah, awesome stuff. That is my best pick for today. Any honorables, guys?
I just have one, and since Pete, you had just showed Eat 'em and Smile, I always toot the horn for this one, even though it has band in the title, and that is David Lee Roth's DLR Band album. I think this is an awesome album. This
Good.
was done in '98 after the reunion with Van Halen exploded, and he came out with this basically a solo album, and uh, on a independently released, I believe, and but the songs are almost all they're all like bangers with like Van Halen type song, really Van Halen type songs that are heavy, guitar driven and fun. I mean, yeah, slam dunk, counterblast, lose the dress, keep the shoes. I mean, you can't have that's a David Lee Roth Attitude song. The song "Going Places" on this is a really really cool song with a nice acoustic intro that leads into a good song with some DLR swagger. Relentless has some screams from him on this. Half of the guitar on this is done by John Lowry before he became John Five. So you got that on here as well. It notes which songs that he plays on. But I always think this is kind of like the lost DLR Van Halen album ish, because of just the style that it was released. If it would have had better production and on like a real record label, I think it would have really had its chance to shine. But it's still out there for people to enjoy. DLR Band, I think, is a really good one.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, production was lacking on it. That's what hurt it. But it's some good songs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard it. I'm trying to think if I
Yeah,
ever heard
if you like if you like any of his older solo stuff or it's really very similar to that. Now the follow-up album to that, I don't think that's Diamond Dave. That one you don't want, but this one is really good.
it.
Well, John Five
Yeah.
is a killer guitar player, so it's
Yeah.
he's the right guy there. Cool. Tony, you got any left?
Yeah, I was gonna say for some honorable mentions. The first band that we probably all could think of that did solo albums was Kiss. They did the original four Kiss solo records, but I didn't count any of those in my
Yeah.
selections here because those albums are actually thought of as they're in the catalog as Kiss albums. But Ace Frehley did his release his first record in '87 is Frehley's Comet.
Yeah.
And even though it was a band, it was still Ace's first solo record. And I thought this record was pretty solid. I mean, the only song I didn't care for was that song Dolls. But I mean, Rock Soldiers is great. I mean, so
Yep.
was Breakout. Into the Night, such a great song. I wish he would play that live in
Mhm.
his set. Now you go see him and whatever you get out of that performance, he does mostly Kiss songs. He may do Rock Soldiers occasionally. But yeah, there was some good stuff on this, and they had part two to Fractured Mirror there was a part two from the '78 solo record. So yeah, that was a really good one. And um, man, I've always as OTT as this record is, I love it. The Benny Vincent Invasion, the first album, it's just so over the top and outrageous.
It is.
That's what I like about it.
Boys want to rock, want to rock.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it's like he is just going nuts on guitar. The vocals are just out of this world from Robert Fleischman.
His hair
I mean,
was
the
like
hair was out of this world. The whole image of this band, these guys were just nuts. And Paul Stanley did a record back. What year was this? 2006. Live to Win. I think it's a good record, man. Paul sounds good on it. He's got good songs on this. So yeah, that was another one. And but two from the Kiss catalog that we won't throw in is Gene Simmons' Asshole and Peter Chris's I Want to Be Michael McDonald record here. Let Me Rock You. Those kind of suck. Actually, there is a couple of good songs on this one. The
there's a few
first
good
one's
songs
probably
on the Gene. There's a few good songs on the Gene album too, but it goes all over the place. It's like he didn't stick to one style, on it.
yeah, it's like my friend Ralph was saying recently. He bought that Gene Simmons vault. He said out of all the 12 or 15 CDs, and he said I could make an EP of just good songs from this thing.
Oh, too funny. Rob, you got any left?
Yeah, I'll give you mine real quick. I got a few. So I'm going
Oh,
World
great
Day
album. Yeah.
2008. I love this album. Another album I love.
Yeah.
Very personal album for Worrell at the time. Brother on there. Obey When We Pray. August. The Day the Rats Went to War. Great riff on that song. Patterns. This Old Man. Great album. If you never heard this album, you have to get it. Yeah, there's tendencies to sound a little bit like Nevermore, but not really. This was a personal album for War at the time. Unfortunately, we lost him, a couple years later, not too much,
Hmm.
like 5 years later, I think it was, because because I saw them I got to see him in 2015. He opened up with Sanctuary. He opened up for Symphony X and Overkill, which was a
Wow.
great tour. Yeah. My next one's
Great
going to
singer.
be Mr. Talatorre. This came
Ah,
out
there we go.
in
Great
21.
choice. Yep.
Rejoice of the Suffering. Like Halford, a great metal album through and through. There's Dogmata, Pretenders, Hellbound and Down, Dark and Majesty, great. Crossroads to Insanity, superb song. Critical, Rejoice in the Suffering, Vexed, Vanguards of the Dawn Wall, great, another great song. I mean, this album is incredible. If you don't have this album, you need to get it. Then we'll go back to Ozzy. I had to put this on my list, Blizzard of Oz, first album that Ozzy did with Randy, and it's a classic. I'm not going to go through all that. Dio was on my list, of course, Last in Line. This is my personal favorite Dio album. Then I'm going to go with a couple surprise Pete with. I'm going to go with some Derek Sherinian.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Yep.
He's got a million of them, but
Oh, yeah.
this is one of my favorites. Michael Romero, Romeo.
That's a great album. Yeah.
Both his albums are great, but
Both
yeah.
are good. Yeah. I
And
like
then
part two better, but they're both great. Yeah.
yeah, and then of course this one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And then the other one too that he has. I mean, I
Yep.
love them both, but those are just the ones that I came up with. So
Yeah. There's so much to choose from. It's like,
also I don't have a picture of it, but Ray Alder's two solo albums I like. I don't know if you ever got into them, Pete, but I mean, he's another one of those singers to me that is just he never
always
fails.
great.
He's such a great singer.
Always so good. Yep, for sure. Good picks. Good picks. All right, I'll throw out just a couple here. Again, there's so many more to choose from, but you can't name them all. I had to pull out the Ace solo album, the first one.
Yeah.
It's great. And
It is.
Paul's is really good too. Jeans is iffy. Peters is terrible. We all know that. Glenn Hughes, Resonate. He's got a million solo records. This is by far my favorite. So good. And he's got a new one coming out real soon. He's got one coming
The
out.
man doesn't stop.
He doesn't stop. I mean, it's been a long time since this one. I mean, this is like almost 10 years ago or so.
Wow.
But yeah, it's easily my favorite of all his. It rocks, it's funky, it's really, really great. How about this one? Most people tend to forget that this is actually was a solo album. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
No more Alice Cooper band. This is Alice Cooper
Yep.
solo right
Alice
now.
Cooper's
Everything he's
first
done
album.
since is solo. Yeah, it's classic,
Yeah.
classic stuff there. And last but certainly not least, Yngwie Malmsteen, Rising Force, right? This is really before
Excellent.
Rising Force became a band. This is him. He did this album. He was still in Alcatraz when he did this album, but I think it was released after he already left. So killer record, neoclassical guitar. And that's all I got.
Oh, and I forgot I had these two. Labrie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a
This is a
good one.
great album.
Yep.
And then
The UDO. Yeah, there's a lot of great.
there's so many, but yeah, I just wanted to pop those up. And Gilmore is another one for me. David Gilmour.
Yes. Yeah. Especially,
what-
well, I mean, they're all good. The first one is probably my favorite. There's the Roger Waters ones are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many.
That first UDO or Udo record, Animal House, was like my
Oh,
favorite.
that's
of
killer.
a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was basically an
Accept
Accept
album.
record.
Yeah.
That was a record Accept wrote and basically threw away and gave it to Udo, and so they could write Heat to Heat, have a more commercial record.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great UDO albums. I really love the Mark era of Accept, especially like the first like three or four albums. To me, the last couple are good, but they're starting to sound like the same. I think I like the last two UDO albums better than the last two Accept albums. Just
Now he's got Dirk Snyder, and he's got the Old Gang. He's got so many different.
so there's all these bands. Who knows
Yeah.
got all this
He's
stuff?
got
I think
him,
the Old
Pete-
Gang
Peter
has-
Baltus and Stefan Kaufman. It's like he's got more
Yeah.
people in Accept than Accept.
He
Yeah,
gets-
totally.
And he gets a bad rap for his singing. I understand people. Not everybody likes his voice. I understand that. I just love. I love you, and I love all the music is always great. It's
Yeah.
always great. The riffs are always great. Like you said, Pete. I think I have every album. I don't think I have every Accept album. I have a lot of them, but I don't have every single one. But I think I have every single album. It's
Yeah,
great.
he's never
he's got
released
a
a bad one. Yeah, there's a lot of really great
I
ones.
saw Udo live I guess it was last year. He did the small solo tour. I mean, he played like three or four Accept songs, and I did not know a single song from his solo stuff, but every single one, it was like they're like these chugging, like put your
Yep.
fist up and sing
Anthemic.
along
Yep.
chorus type songs. And it's like, I don't even know what they are, but it was like, that one was really good. And the next one comes up, wow, that one's pretty good too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, it's one of those, it's like, if you like Accept, I mean, you would totally, totally get into those songs.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's all solid.
Definitely a good gym record too.
Yeah.
Putting on judo. I have a judo playlist. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. That's some of our favorite solo albums from members of hard rock and metal bands. So, of course, as it works, down in the comments below, list some of your favorites and let us know if you have any comments or feedback on any of our picks today. And we'll see you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube all together all the damn
The
time.
damn
See, Craig,
time.
I remember it. See that? I'm getting better at it. I gotta throw that in there. The new thing is always hardest to squeeze in, right? That Instagram thing. Like, gotta
Mm.
figure that out. I gotta say, not even 2 weeks into the Instagram account, already have like 500 subscribers and like 25,000 views. Go figure. Right? People love the Instagram thing. So, hey,
Yeah.
Yep.
whatever.
It's
So,
simple.
if you haven't started following us, please do so. It's Peter Pardo, SOT, all one word. Look us up on Instagram and start following us. And we'll see you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. For Craig Kaminsky, Tony Dio, and Rob Lasante, I am Pete Pardo. See you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye bye.
Peace out.